UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for an end to the death and destruction in Gaza, describing it as the worst he has witnessed during his more than 7-year tenure.
안토니우 구테흐스 유엔 사무총장은 현 가자 지구에서 벌어지는 죽음과 파괴 상황이 지난 7년 넘게 재임하는 동안 목격한 최악의 수준에 해당한다며 이를 당장 종식할 것을 촉구했습니다. Tell us more.
Well, the UN chief said on Monday that the UN has offered to monitor any ceasefire in Gaza, but he did say it's unrealistic to think the UN could play any role in Gaza's future, either through administering the territory or providing a peacekeeping force. And he said specifically, because Israel is unlikely to accept any UN role. This obviously, after this interview came out, Israel's UN ambassador reacted and he said Guterres' comments were disappointing. He said it was disappointing to see the UN advocate for a ceasefire without mentioning the Israeli hostages and without condemning Hamas. He said a ceasefire cannot and will not happen until the remaining hostages that were taken on October the 7th that remain in Gaza are returned to Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he has, and his government, they've often accused the UN of being anti-Israeli, and he's been highly critical of UN humanitarian operations in Gaza. He's even accused UN workers of collaborating with Hamas. And he's also voiced skepticism about any peacekeeping mission, saying that only Israel can protect itself. So definitely it looks as though Guterres and the Israeli government are not seeing eye to eye.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is in many ways a very complex situation. Some people might say it's simple, but it's complex.
Absolutely not, yeah.
Yeah, it's complex in the fact that, of course, first of all, when this current
military operation,
this erupted, it was Hamas that first
killed thousands of people,
killed a lot of people,
and took hostages, right?
And Hamas, of course, is the Palestinian militant group. But then Israel has not backed down at all. So they're both kind of destructing each other, and it's a really difficult situation. Certain countries are more on Israel's side, certain countries are more on the Palestinian side, and it's, as you said, the UN, it looks like, is not going to be able to play a big role in this situation, but they are nonetheless condemning it, as we all are.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look at this. The UN Secretary-General says he's never witnessed anything quite like this.
So when you use witness as a verb, it means you see something. You see something happen. And a witness can also be a noun, a person that saw something. So in court trials, they call witnesses the people who witnessed the crime.
그렇죠. 증인이라고 하죠, 우리가. 법정에서는 그게 witness거든요. 증인, 명사로 쓸 때. 동사로도 쓸 수 있어요. 그러면은 목격하다가 되겠습니다. 그런데 여기서는요, 유엔 사무총장이 내가 지금 이렇게 사무총장으로 있었던 7년 이상 되는 이 기간 동안에 내가 목격한 것 중 최악의 수준의 그런 지금 갈등이다, 파괴 상황이다, 이렇게 얘기를 하고 있습니다. It's the worst he's seen or witnessed. 자, 그 다음에는요, he said during his 7-year tenure, more than 7-year tenure.
Right.
Yeah.
So this means he's been the Secretary General for 7 years. So your tenure is the period of time that a person holds any position. Usually we're talking about jobs, but you could also talk about our tenure as students ended when we graduated from university.
That's right.
You can use it that way. You could talk about your tenure as the host of Morning Special.
Yeah.
It's 5 plus 6 years almost now or something?
Currently, it's just been over 6.
6 years.
But we don't have fixed tenures when we begin this job because we're freelancers.
We just use it as when you have a position.
Oh, how long you've been doing the job.
Yeah, so you can say
it's the same for Guterres too, yeah.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
right.
You can still use it that way. I think you're thinking more of for professors. Professors, that's when they have tenure. It's a little bit used differently. And then it means they're in their job for a certain period of time. So then they get, I think, certain benefits, something like that.
Could you quickly give us the spelling of this word?
tenure.
Yeah, because it sounds like tenure, but it's not. It's tenure.
Tenure.
Tenure. But maybe you've been working for 10 years, in which case you would say
A 10-year tenure.
A 10-year tenure.
Right.
요거 발음 연습하기 좋을 것 같아요. 10년 동안 내가 지금 이 일을 하고 있다. 나의 지금 현재까지의 재임 기간이 10년이다. 라고 한다 그러면 10-year 따로따로 10년, 그 다음에 tenure라는 요 재임 기간이란 단어 쓰시면 될 것 같은데요. tenure의 발음이 10년과 비슷하기 때문에 주의하셔서 발음 연습하시면 좋을 것 같아요. Alright, well here's the headline again. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for an end to the death and destruction in Gaza, describing it as the worst he's witnessed during his more than 7-year tenure. Let's move on to the next headline.
Officials at a national park in New Mexico have revealed the significant impact of a seemingly innocent bag of snacks dropped by a careless visitor, which had major consequences for the cave's ecosystem.
미국 뉴멕시코주의 한 국립공원 측이 어느 방문객이 무심코 떨어뜨린 과자 봉지가 해당 공원의 동굴 생태계에 엄청난 영향을 미친 사실을 공개했습니다. Okay, so someone left behind a bag of snacks. The snacks were inside, I guess.
Yeah, it was a full bag of Cheetos, and they dropped it there.
Okay,
and-
so there you go. We have the
Yeah.
brand there, but but it's
okay.
okay, I guess. I mean,
It's part of the story.
Yeah, it is part of the story. So tell us more about it then.
Yeah, so like this visitor at the Carlsberg Caverns National Park dropped a bag of Cheetos inside one of the caves. And I don't like litter bugs, so this really bugged me.
Yeah.
No pun intended. I guess pun intended. So in a Facebook post, park officials explained that the humid cave environment turned this processed corn snack into a feast for microorganisms, creating, quote, the perfect environment to host microbial life and fungi. And this park, so the park says that eating and drinking anything in these caves other than just plain water attracts animals into the cavern, and this cavern, it's home to 17 bat species. They say there's between 400 and 800,000 bats in these caves, and because this donkey dropped a bag of snacks in there. The park ranger spent 20 minutes removing mold and debris from the surfaces inside the cave. All because of this.
그러게요. 우리에게도 굉장히 익숙한 과자죠. 물론 뭐 이 과자 자체가 무슨 문제가 되는 건 아니지만 이 과자 봉지를 이 동굴 안에다가 버리고 간 이것이 이제 문제가 된 겁니다. 사실 이 동굴 안에는요, 물 외에, 자연적으로 생겨나는 물 외에 다른 어떤 먹을 것이 있으면 안 된다고 합니다. 왜냐하면은, 자, 이제 미생물들이 생겨나고요. 그 다음에 다른 생물체들이 먹을 것이 생기면은 이 동굴 안으로 유입이 되고, 그러다 보면은 원래 있었던 이 천연 동굴 안에 있는 생태계가 엄청난 교란을 이제 맞이하게 되면서 생태계가 완전히 뒤틀린다라는 얘기입니다. So who would have guessed a bag of Cheetos would have ended up completely destroying the sort of ecosystem inside this cave?
Yeah, I guess you shouldn't litter anyways, but when there's food, I didn't fully understand, like at first I didn't fully understand it, but because all these insects and spiders and flies, they're attracted to it and then it creates mold?
맞아요. mold, 곰팡이거든요. 그러니까 이제 뭐 다른 생물체를 끌어들이기도 하지만 동굴이 습하잖아요. 그래서 그 옥수수로 만든 요 과자가 이제 눅눅해지면서 곰팡이가 생기고 이제 곰팡이에 서식하기 좋은 생물체들도 이제 오고 그러다 보니까 완전히 동굴 안에 생태계가 무너지는 일이 발생했다고 합니다. 아이고. All because of a careless visitor. What's careless?
Careless is the opposite of careful.
There you go.
That's the best way to think of it. If you're careless, you are not being careful.
그러니까요. Careful 하면 우리가 조심하는 거죠. Careless는 그냥 조심성 없는 거, 부주의한 겁니다. Why did they leave behind?
I guess they dropped it and then didn't bother trying to pick it up.
그러니까
That's my guess.
It couldn't have been intentional, but yeah. 아마 정말 실수로
hope not.
했겠죠. 예,
Because it was a
그냥
full
뭐-
bag apparently. At first I thought it was
그러니까.
just the wrapper with a little bit in it, but one article I found said it was a full bag. So probably it just got dropped. But they should have alerted the park rangers right away. Hey, I dropped this.
Yeah.
Might want
It
to.
looks like it's open, so maybe they opened it and then they accidentally dropped it and they just moved on.
Right. Okay. That's kind of what it's. That's what I
Yeah,
thought too.
yeah.
But they say it's not the first time this type of thing has happened.
Oh, no.
Like even when people just walk through, they leave lint from their clothes, and any little thing in these
Yeah.
ecosystems can cause problems.
Can that affect the
Yeah,
ecosystem?
anything,
Oh,
but
really?
especially this kind of thing. So I guess the park always says leave nothing behind.
Yeah. 아무것도 동굴에다가 두고 오면 안 됩니다. 그냥 처음부터 가방 꼭꼭 싸매고 아무것도 빠져나가지 못하도록 하면서 동굴을 들어가야 될 것 같아요. Be very careful, not careless.
When I go hiking in Korea and I see people who leave garbage in the mountains, that boils my blood.
Yeah.
Any type of anything
Makes you angry.
Yes,
Yeah.
it boils my blood.
Boils your blood. That's another way of saying it
Really makes you angry.
makes Ray angry. 맞아요. And there are consequences to these actions.
There sure are. So consequences are the result of something, a particular action that someone takes, or a situation. So like a storm, there could be consequences from a storm. There could be damage.
Yeah.
Usually we use consequences in a negative way, but it doesn't always have to be
Right.
that way. There
Yeah.
can be positive consequences
Sure.
of research, for example. There could be medical breakthroughs.
네. 어떤 행동의 결과라는 뜻으로 consequence를 쓰는데요. 대체적으로는 부정적인 의미를 가지고 있지만 꼭 그런 건 아닙니다. 그래서 대체로 부정적으로 쓰이는 결과라는 뜻이다. 이렇게 보시면 됩니다. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Officials at a national park in New Mexico have revealed the significant impact of a seemingly innocent bag of snacks dropped by a careless visitor, which had major consequences for the cave's ecosystem. And here's our final headline.
Russia's birth rate has reportedly dropped to its lowest level since 1999, raising concerns about what is being described as a severe population decline.
러시아의 출산율이 1999년 이후 최저 수준으로 떨어진 것으로 알려지면서 심각한 인구 감소에 대한 우려가 커지고 있습니다. Okay, so Russia has one more thing to worry about, and that's the
Yes.
declining population. Let's
That
have a
is.
look at this.
So from January to June of this year, just under 600,000 children were born in Russia. That's 16,000 less than the same period in 2023. And this is all according to data published by the Russian government's governmental statistics agency. So over that same period as well, January to June of this year, Russia's population decline accelerated by 18%, with 49,000 more deaths recorded this year. And a lot of that is likely due to casualties from the war in Ukraine. In July, Putin's spokesperson called the low birth rate catastrophic and said that reviving the birth rate was one of Russia's top priorities.
러시아에서 지금 출산율이 지금 많이 줄어들고 있다라는 얘기입니다. 그렇지 않아도 전쟁으로 인해서 인구도 감소를 하고 있는데 전쟁에 나가서 목숨을 잃고 있는 청년들이 많다 보니까 인구 감소 문제 러시아에서도 지금 심각하게 받아들이고 있는 것 같네요. Raising concerns 보겠습니다.
Well, there's two ways you can think of this. So in this case, it's talking about increasing the anxiety or increasing worries among the general population. You can also talk about raising concerns within a certain group. You know, so for example, if the stock market's going poorly, going down, then that might raise concerns among investors, for example, but not everybody, just people who invest. Now, another way you can use raise concern is when someone brings an issue to someone else's attention. And usually you're bringing something you're worried about to somebody in a higher position, like a boss or a manager, for example, or maybe even like an elected representative,
Sure.
congressperson, someone like that.
Exactly. When you raise something, you're bringing it up. So in this case, you're bringing up a concern. Raise concern이라는 게 우려를 이제 뭐 표명하다가 될 수도 있고요. 아니면 우려를 불러일으킨다가 될 수도 있습니다. 여기서는 지금 이제 출산율이 굉장히 낮다 보니까 그것으로 인해서 러시아가 우려하고 있다라는 얘기가 되겠고, 근데 만약에 내가 내 상사에게 이러이러한 우려가 있습니다라고 제기를 하고 싶으면은 I raised concerns 이런 식으로 이렇게 했다. 그래서 내가 그런 이제 우려를 언급했다, 제기했다라고 할 때도 이 표현을 쓸 수 있습니다. 자, 그 다음에는요, severe.
Very serious. So if you say you have a severe headache, for example, it's not just a little headache. It's a
Debilitating
really,
headache.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really bad headache. The kind, if you had a severe headache, you might even like have to go to the hospital.
Yeah. 심각한, severe. 자, 다시 읽어볼게요. Russia's birth rate has reportedly dropped to its lowest level since 1999, raising concerns about what's being described as a severe population decline. And that's it for our 5 headlines this morning with Ray.